Hello and welcome to the AfterBurners podcast. I'm your host, Samuel One, and this is episode 11 with Wes Spearman and Henry Buxton. Lads.
Hey up. Where are we? Me and Wes are definitely not in the same room.
No, definitely not.
We're in radio studios for once. The audio is actually going to be decent.
Indeed.
This will be good. I'm looking forward to this one. Looking forward to it.
We were always doing it from home, but now a change of scenery.
If you're wondering why I'm looking up in the corner, it's because Sam's opposite me. And if I ever look to the side, you know that Wes is actually in the same room. But
if I turn my phone round,
literally, you ready? It's good to be back together again. It's the first time I've been together with you lot, so it's going to be good. Socially distanced, of course, but it's good to be back on.
Oh, gosh. All right. So, today's episode 11, we're talking about the Spanish Grand Prix. I mean, we've got a lot to get through. We're talking about Hamilton, Max Verstappen, what else? Charles Leclerc. We've got Alpine and AlphaTauri as well. So, to kick
that's an argument. Is it Alpine or Alpine?
I thought it was Alpine.
I think it's because...
Alpine since... Oh, yeah. But the word Alpine is Alpine, isn't it? The way it's spelt in English
but
it's
French.
Alpine. But it's French. It's Alpine.
It's Alpine.
Alpine, yeah.
So, let's kick things off, yeah? Let's talk about Lewis Hamilton. Sir Lewis Hamilton.
Sir Lewis Hamilton.
Sir Lewis Hamilton. Right, let's get into it, shall we?
Yeah.
Qualifying, the first driver ever in Formula One to hit 100, I repeat, 100 pole positions.
It's unfathomable, isn't it? It's crazy.
It's a ridiculous achievement.
It's mad. It's a hell of an achievement. It's a hell of an achievement. Yeah. We go, it's crazy. We need to put some respect on his name. He deserves it. I mean, he's the greatest of all time, and to get his 100, it's a milestone, isn't it? He gets that one. He got that mini 100 tyre. He's probably got hundreds of them now, literally.
Well, literally 100.
And brilliant of him, brilliant.
Yeah, it's just a ridiculous achievement.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got 98 race wins to go with it after Sunday as well. So
2 more race wins. He's got 100 race wins as well.
He'll bring up his 200s. Well, his 100s on both this year for definite. He's definitely going to win another 2 races this year. That's for sure. I mean, he's been racing 15 years?
Yeah,
Formula 1?
15 years.
2007. Honestly, it's gone like that because I remember when he first started in the sport. I remember I've seen him live once, and that was years ago. And it's just for him to still be in the sport. Still be in the sport, like number one. Sorry about that. But for that, it's like I think it's incredible. It really is. It really is incredible.
Absolutely.
270 races, or maybe more.
I really wanted him to actually like get his 100th. Pole 100th race win in the same.
That would have been nice.
In the same race, nice. That would have been really nice. And like at Silverstone or something, that would have been brilliant.
That would have been nice.
Could he get his 100th race win at Silverstone?
No.
I mean,
is it too far away?
Silverstone's quite a long way away.
It's quite a long way
about
away.
We've got Monaco and is it Turkey?
No, we've got
Monaco next.
We've got Monaco next.
Yeah.
We've got Monaco next.
It's gonna be boring. It'll be boring. I guarantee you.
But let's talk about the race though.
Yeah.
The race. I mean,
race review, isn't it? That's what we're meant to be doing. And we're talking about Lewis Hamilton. To be fair, we could do a whole podcast on Lewis Hamilton.
We could. Yeah. But all right then. So Sunday comes around, and as again, the great man, the GOAT, he starts on pole position, and alongside him is the Flying Dutchman.
Did you ever say his name before you say anything else? Like literally the Flying Dutchman. That's all you refer to him as.
The Flying Dutchman, also known as Max Verstappen, starting on the second place. Sorry, starts in second place. Lights go out, and before you know it, turn one.
Mercedes had a terrible start.
They didn't have a great start.
Oh my god! Honestly, and as well, I'm so impressed because I want to be an F1 commentator one day. I'm pretty sure all of us would like to work.
Oh hell yeah!
Right, Crofty. How does he have he must have 20 eyes because he looks at everyone and he literally noticed that both Max Verstappen and Leclerc had a good start. How he sees that, I have no clue because I was looking at Hamilton and Bottas and to say I thought they had a good start themselves and then look over and Verstappen's passing Hamilton and Leclerc's passing Bottas.
Can you believe it?
How does he do that? So yeah, the first the first lap, probably the best lap of the race.
Yeah.
The first lap,
Easily.
Leclerc had an amazing start, and Verstappen did an even better start, and he's in first place. So I think it was a really good first, off the line and go, yeah.
You know what? Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, I don't know. I was literally impressed with him the whole race. How he didn't finish third, I don't know. But
He's a brilliant
he had
driver.
a great
Yeah,
race.
great
Oh my God, he's such a good driver.
Oh my
it's a
goodness.
shame that he is in the Ferrari, because I hope next season we do see a battle with Leclerc, because he is as good, if not maybe better, a driver than the two that we are
Debatable.
currently seeing.
Debatable.
It is debatable. I really do like
He's up
Leclerc.
there.
Let me ask you a question. This might be a bit controversial because of the car,
Go on then.
but is Charles Leclerc, will Charles Leclerc ever be better than Valtteri Bottas?
He already is.
No, I'm not allowing that. I'm not allowing that.
He is better than Valtteri.
No. Valtteri Bottas is Valtteri Bottas is. I like Valtteri Bottas.
Yeah.
But I do also like Leclerc. I thought you were going to say. I thought you were. I thought you were going to ask. Is Leclerc ever going to be better than Lewis Hamilton?
Yeah, that's what
No.
I thought the question was going to be. In which case, no.
Is he? Could he ever be better than Max Verstappen? Yes,
Yes.
because I think he could be a future world champion. But then again, so can Max Verstappen if they get the right car. Put your glasses on, Sam. It's not that funny.
To all the viewers out there, to all the viewers and listeners out there, I'm literally creasing, crying my eyes
Well, the
out.
viewers will be able
They
to
can
see
it.
you.
Yeah. They can see it, Sam. Viewers doesn't work well for a podcast, but if you're watching this on YouTube, then
Can we
it's
also give a
perfect.
shout out to Dylan Manufor,
Yeah.
because he can probably hear us right now. If you're watching this, Dylan, I'm so sorry. Well, what you just heard was on madness. He's
Yeah.
doing his assessment, bless him.
Yeah, Dylan,
So sorry, Dylan.
Yeah, Dylan, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about this. You're doing your assessment, and sorry about that, man.
Yeah.
All the best. Anyway,
Have you got any more mad questions for us, Sam? You always sprout all these random things. It was like, who's the best of the rest? It was Lando Norris. Well, now it's Bottas, but the best of the rest after those lot, it's Norris.
Yeah.
Like we had this discussion before, so yeah. But yeah, Leclerc could be better than Bottas. Well, yeah. More like podiums and race wins and things like that. 100%, because Bottas is coming to the end of his career, I think, which is a shame because I really like him. But Leclerc is still young, and I think that he could actually, if the spec changes or he gets into a new team like Red Bull or even Mercedes, he could take Bottas's seat. He's a future world champion.
Definitely,
100%.
100%.
yeah. Now that I fully recovered.
You haven't even fully recovered. Now
I've fully recovered from my fanatic laughter.
Go on.
Mercedes two-stop strategy with the tyres.
Oh, whew.
Genius.
Now, how brilliant was that?
Hungary. It's like Hungary 2019,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Oh,
It's like it was.
It was
Hungry.
It was Hungary
all over
2019.
again.
Oh, amazing. What do you think? Wes hasn't had enough speech.
no, I haven't.
You haven't spoken enough. Normally it's me and you going back and forth. It's been me and Sam so far. Go on, Wes. What do you think about that?
It was just a masterstroke, really. And we all thought that when Verstappen had that long pit stop, it was about 4 seconds in total, wasn't it? We all thought that Hamilton, they'll bring Mercedes in, Hamilton in first, pit onto a set of mediums, and then he'll have the net lead of the race. But they didn't. Hamilton kept out a few laps on, I believe it was the soft tyres, because he felt they were good. And I think it's one of the few times that we've heard Hamilton come over the radio and say, my tyres are actually good, rather than, oh no, Bono, my tyres are gone, that he usually says. It's just, masterful from Mercedes, and Verstappen didn't manage his tyres well enough, I think, is what it comes down to, because Hamilton was 22 seconds behind Verstappen after he pitted for that second set of mediums. And 20 laps later, he was right on Verstappen's backside.
Do you think Red Bull messed up the strategy with the one stop?
Yes, I think so. Well,
I think they didn't foresee it coming.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, the commentators are saying they caught Red Bull unawares, and that's just tactical. Red Bull probably didn't even see that coming. They probably thought, oh, we're all going to the end of the race on this.
Yeah.
And obviously, that's what Mercedes picked up on and went, you know what, we'll take our chances here, go for the two-stop, and obviously, because he's on faster tyres, it worked perfectly. 6 laps left, he's leading the race and charging down and won by, what was it, 16 seconds in the end?
Something like that,
incredible. I mean,
16, 17
the tactic.
seconds. Yeah.
I mean, and what is a shame is as well is we won't probably see that tactic again because there's not many races where you can do that. And also, Red Bull will probably see it coming. And if, the lap straight after Hamilton stops, Verstappen will probably come in and pit as well, and they'll both be on level terms again. So, yeah, I think this one was a bit of a, a great tactic, a freak tactic, but it works. And Hamilton's blistering away in the World Championship race.
Yeah, I think that as soon as Mercedes, while Hamilton had that second pit stop, Red Bull knew they had to commit to the one stop because they couldn't then bring Verstappen in because otherwise he would be behind Hamilton and would have lost the race anyway. So it was a case of could Verstappen manage his tyres well enough to keep Hamilton off for, about 24 laps in the end. And at the end of the day, he couldn't quite do that. Well, I say couldn't quite. It was 16 seconds off. As you
I also think we need to bring up the Bottas pass as well. The team orders.
Yeah.
And he sort of ignored them, but also didn't ignore them. It was sort of like it because I know he's second driver, but they say they're equal. Well, they're not. We know
equal,
this.
Yeah.
We know.
You've just told let Hamilton pass.
Yeah.
I mean, and then also he shaved a bit of time off. I mean, if Bottas kept him behind for another couple of laps, it might have been a completely different story, and Verstappen could have crossed over the line in first. But but Bottas, it is kind of sad, because they should be equal, even though Lewis Hamilton is pushing. But I think, as the season progresses and they both, Verstappen and Hamilton himself, pulls away from Bottas, I just think team orders will be let Hamilton pass.
You got to remember that these guys are a team, and when you have, like in 2016, for example, you had Hamilton fighting Rosberg. If they're going wheel to wheel every race, then we might have a crash like in Spain 2016. And the team gets no points for that weekend.
I remember that.
So I think the mixture that they've got now with Hamilton and Bottas is just the perfect combination because they've got a race-winning. Well, they're both race-winning drivers in race-winning cars, but Hamilton is just that much better than Bottas that they can rely on Bottas to pick up a podium position pretty much every race. And then Hamilton, more often than not, will win the race as well, if not come second.
Yeah,
so it's just they've got the right combination for maximising the amount of points they can possibly get out of a race weekend, and also picking up that fastest lap for the extra point for fastest lap as well. Because if Bottas is 20 seconds faster than, or 20 seconds ahead of the car in fourth, they get a free pit stop, put onto a new set of softs, and then go pedal to the metal for the last 2-3 laps, whatever.
Yeah, I liked how you spoke about that. Spoke about how his old teammate, Lewis's old teammate Rosberg. They sort of, when they were out in the front 1 and 2, they literally went, you can race now. Yeah. They weren't really, even though they were on the same team, they weren't really teammates as such. I know there was a bit of a spat going on between them, whereas I think Bottas and Hamilton are more teammates as such. And then obviously Bottas won't be happy of the fact that, he is second driver, even though it's not spoken and they say they're equal. There is obviously a disparity between them. So, I think Rosberg, if he was in that position, probably would have fought harder because, he wants to fight for that position and, by doing so, he actually won a world championship. So I think that Bottas, he isn't as good of a driver as Hamilton, but if he really, really wanted to, he could defend. And if they weren't teammates, he obviously would have, continued on. But I think it is quite a shame about Bottas because he is second driver, and with Rosberg and Hamilton, they were equal, and it was like when they were, together, it was like, do what you want, race. If you crash into each other, you crash into each other, and it just hinders Mercedes. But I remember that on that straight in the Spanish Grand Prix a few years ago where, he forced Hamilton, he closed the door, forced Hamilton onto the grass, and, they both ended up in the gravel out of the race. So,
Verstappen won it.
Yeah, that was a good race, I remember that. But it is a shame, but it's the way the sport works. He's first driver. They want him to get another world championship, and
where does now? Just before we move on, moving on. Charles Leclerc. We're gonna
just before we move on. We're gonna move on.
I want to bring up Charles Leclerc again in the Ferrari. I don't know. Him and his teammate Carlos Sainz. It all started third practice on the Friday. the way through to Sunday. I mean, they were both posting good times, but it was that qualifying where they both, particularly Leclerc, really put in good performances.
They both had a fastest lap at one point. They both had the fastest lap of the session. So you can't ignore that. I mean, even if they were they're not even the first, they are brilliant. They are brilliant drivers. Leclerc, I said this in the I think it was the episode before, that he had his best race in Portimao. He had his best race in Spain. He's getting better. Leclerc is getting better and better. And Sainz is not far behind. Ricciardo and Norris have to watch their backs because Ferrari are coming up as that third team. And it's mad because they were so out of it last season. And now they're back in it. Leclerc is getting better and better.
And now with this transition phase for the new regulations next year in 2022, this could be, and I say could be, this is the opportunity for Ferrari to really take this advantage and really turn their car into, back in the days of Michael Schumacher,
Which weren't really that long ago. If you remember, 15 years ago. From 2000 to... Well, 07 was the last time a Ferrari won the championship with Kimi Räikkönen, and before that it was pretty much Schumacher.
Yeah.
It's really not that long ago until Ferrari were dominating, and I mean, just a few years ago, they were competing with Mercedes. Remember that Vettel-Hamilton battle? I think it was 2017 or 2018. It's really not that long ago since Ferrari...
Wait, you need to rejog my memory here. Did Vettel win? Did Vettel win the World Championship in a Red Bull, or was it a Ferrari?
Red Bull.
Red Bull.
Yeah.
It wasn't a
2013.
Because I remember that season. A few seasons, those seasons where it was Michael Schumacher and Massa. I remember those that sort of little era as well. And then it was, Vettel and Raikkonen for a bit as well. I mean, they've always been marketed as that, second team, haven't they? The first or second team, and they should be. And it's a real shame that they've dropped off because they're a solid midfield car at the moment. Which is a shame because they should be up there with, they should hit them and McLaren, if anything, are the two cars that should be battling for fourth place. And I think that this season they might be because we've got two brilliant drivers in Sainz and Leclerc. And I think the car is slightly better from last year. And I think maybe... I don't know if Vettel's lost it a bit, but him going into that racing point, which is now Aston Martin, and not performing.
He's lost. I think he's lost it.
But not performing. We said he wasn't performing in Ferrari because obviously he was leaving and he didn't really care anymore. But he's gone into the Aston Martin and putting in the exact same performances as we saw at Ferrari. Ferrari aren't as bad, and we were seeing Leclerc finishing in the top 10, even the top 6 really last season. So it isn't the car. I think Vettel just struggled last season. I don't think he's got it anymore, and I think that Ferrari is still a good car, but it's not as good as it used to be, like you said.
Now, last thing before we move on, I'm going to make a statement.
Controversial? Controversial?
Yes.
Go on.
Yes.
Oh God.
Go on. Yeah, it's going to be controversial in this sense.
It's going to make me emotional.
in this sense of, right, here it goes. Mercedes, Valtteri Bottas, if he carries on like this and Charles Leclerc, puts in good performances and does something really significant in Monaco and for the rest of the season, I will say this there and then that Ferrari Charles Leclerc this season or in future will be better than Mercedes Valtteri Bottas.
100%.
Well, as I said earlier, I think he already is better than Valtteri Bottas.
I mean, if Leclerc one time gets second or even first in the World Championship, he is better than Valtteri Bottas. Because Valtteri Bottas, he hasn't finished higher than third in the World Championship, has he?
Yeah, second last
year.
Yeah.
You see, I think with Valtteri Bottas finishing third, it's almost like Arsenal finishing fourth in the Champions League. No, but what I'm trying to say is like Bottas will almost... It's like he almost has to finish third to cement his position in Formula One as a Mercedes driver. Do you know what I mean?
But it's almost third at the moment. It's just the highest he can finish, and he's doing that consistently. So I have no complaints with him because it is at the end of the day, it's Hamilton and Verstappen 1 and 2, and if Bottas gets third, he's had a successful race because he can't contest with those two drivers in those two cars at the moment. I know he's in a Mercedes himself, but I don't think his Mercedes is as good as Hamilton's. I think they are, throwing all the eggs in one basket with that. Same with Verstappen and Red Bull. Yeah. But I think Perez is in a slightly worse car than Verstappen, even though it's the same teammate. I remember, one of the first races, they changed the engines over to Gasly's car for one of the races, which baffles me because I was saying that, helping another team, you have two teams that you're managing, helping them out is kind of strange, but. Yeah, I don't know really what my point was there, but I feel like Bottas. I think if he gets third consistently throughout the season, he's a decent season. Could get a couple of second places if there's a freak race. Could even win a race this season if he's lucky. But if Hamilton or Verstappen have an off day, but yeah, I mean, I think to be fair, if Hamilton goes out and Mercedes focus completely on Bottas can challenge with Verstappen if Hamilton's not in the picture. Yeah. So because he's in a great car, and if they've got all the focus of Bono and Toto on Bottas, they'll obviously want him to do well, and they'll push him forward. So yeah, I think that because Hamilton's in the picture, Bottas gets shunned off to the side. But then again, if Bottas finishes third, I don't think we can ask any more of him.
Yeah.
You mentioned Pierre Gasly. So moving on, AlphaTauri and Alpine, they didn't have the best of.
You sound depressed, Sam. Are you an Alpine and an AlphaTauri fan? He's like, AlphaTauri. Oh, Yuki. We all love Yuki. And did you hear him? Did you hear him in what was it? Was it qualifying or was it practice? He was saying how rubbish. I'm not gonna swear because he did swear. But he was literally like, "How rubbish is this car?" And then I remember Brundle was like, "You cannot be saying that about your constructor."
Yeah,
you cannot say that about your constructor.
Because all right, let me put this into context. It was in qualifying, and he had an interview with Sky F1, and I don't know the comments exactly, but I can tell it was along the lines of, this car is not up to scratch. I'm just paraphrasing. This car is not up to scratch. He maybe put in a few offensive words, hence Brundle saying, can't say that kind of stuff about your constructor. And Yuki is the kind of person who swears a lot.
Yeah.
He swears a lot.
Yeah, but he's passionate.
He's our age.
He's passionate.
Well. You got to remember that. He's the same age as... Well, he's only a few months older than me and is probably about the same age as you, Buxton.
Is he 2000?
He's 20. He was 21 a few days ago.
He turned 21 on Tuesday.
So he is slightly older than me.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, if I was racing, I probably couldn't.
No, but you can't. But you can't. You can't rinse your team like that
in front of the press. You can't. You should be. If anything, if you're gonna rinse anything, you should rinse yourself for having a bad performance. You shouldn't blame the car. They are supplying you with a career here, and they've trusted you to take Daniel Kvyat's place, who I must put in is a good driver. Yeah. To take out Daniel Kvyat and put you in, you must be a seriously good driver. And if you're taking the mick out of your own constructor, I think that's quite.
In your first year of F1 as well.
And the first year as well. Yeah. It's not like they've been 5 years down the line and gone, yeah, this car's a bit rubbish, I've not been doing too well. You can say that, but on your first year of F1, when you're young, no one else is going to want to take you because the moment you get one slip up, he's going to fire shots at you. It's immature. It's not. I think everybody quite loved Yuki because he's the only sort of Asian driver in the grid at the moment, obviously because Alex Albon's gone.
Yeah.
But we all love him. I think he had a great personality to start with. But the fact that he's getting, moody and whiny, he's not likeable. He's just not likeable.
I think he has a lot to learn, especially at a young age of 21. And I think as much as I think AlphaTauri is the car for him to, really understand the sport, I think for him he just really needs to just calm down a bit. Take the words. Don't use offensive words. I mean, I watched the interview with what's his name, the Channel 4 guy for F1.
Steve Jones. Steve
Jones, that's it. Yeah, I think, and he was apparently Yuki Tsunoda's afraid of insects and bugs. Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, and but yeah, AlphaTauri and Alpine had a very, very bad weekend. And which brings me to my predictions actually, because I got my first two right with Lewis Hamilton taking pole and winning the race. So I don't know how many points that is.
Oh, I've brought
Where's
I've
bringing
brought
up his
the tab
Excel
here.
file?
Brought an Excel.
I had an awful week. I got none right.
Yeah.
I had pretty much the best week of the freaking season. Excuse me.
But the only reason I chose
I think he's run out of battery. That's good.
you might have to put it up against something. Oh, we're having
There we go.
technical issues.
Let's try that.
So sorry, we're having.
We're live. We are, and it's live. Yeah, I think the only reason I chose Verstappen over for both is because you both chose Lewis, and I was like, I need to go for something different. It's when you both went for Verstappen and Lewis before, and I went for Valtteri, because it was like we need to have some like disparity between us. If we just all go for the same thing, it's just kind of boring, because like we either all get points or we don't, so we need a bit different.
Yeah.
And I normally don't think about it either before the before we do the podcast either, so I'm quite on the spot with it. I know you comment on Twitter and with each other, so yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I kind of lost it with my driver of the day. I put down Pierre Gasly, and Pierre Gasly didn't have the best weekend.
No, he didn't.
Because he had infringements. He actually started 12th? No.
To be fair, if we might even need to start doing something like driver of the day. Whoever gets the most votes out of us three, and I think
Good
Sainz had a good race, but I
Yeah,
don't
he had a
think
decent
who was
race.
who was higher in the. Apparently, Mazepin got 7.4% of the vote.
Can you believe?
I think Mazepin's just a joke vote at this rate.
Fraud. You're a joke.
I don't get it. It's funny. It's a meme, isn't it, at the end of the day? Mazepin's a meme. We've got to deal with it. He's in F1. He's in for at least this season. He's probably in for future seasons.
We just got someone.
Oh, it's Fraser.
Oh.
Do a podcast, mate. Watch it on YouTube. AfterBurners on YouTube. No, that's my flatmate. He's probably doing his assessment. Yeah, shout out Fraser. What I don't know what I was on about. We need to do something like whoever gets the most votes on driver of the day or gets that top 5, we get like half a point or something. I don't know.
Something like that.
But your prediction was quite good, because I think Sainz did have a good race, and it was his home race as well.
But I think Hamilton deserved it.
Oh, I voted for Hamilton. For Hamilton.
Damn it.
No one's ever going to guess Hamilton driver of the day because it never happens.
It rarely happens.
But
it's just because of that race, the tactical thing.
Yeah.
We're not really voting for Hamilton in that sense. We're voting for Mercedes. We're voting for Mercedes tactics in that way.
Yeah.
McLaren had a poor race, I think. Did they?
They were okay.
weren't
They were 5th and was it 7th?
They didn't really
Or 8th?
focus on them.
No, we didn't see a lot of McLaren over the weekend, but they still had a solid race. Solid points finished by both drivers, and the first time that Ricciardo outscored Norris.
Big up,
Well,
Danny
first time
Rick.
of the season that happened.
Big up, Danny Rick.
No, I prefer Norris. You love McLaren.
I do like McLaren.
Who's your favourite?
Cameron.
Oh, for God's sake. Dutch tilt. The flying Dutch tilt. This is just what happens.
If not, I'll just.
We'll cut it out. We've got. Okay, we don't need $14.99 to get this. We've got 10 minutes left on this recording.
Yeah.
But I can always start another one.
What was your question?
Who do you prefer, Danny Rick or Lando Norris?
Come on, it can't be
That's
that.
a
It
tough
can't be.
question.
Oh, stop it.
It's a
It
tough
can't-
question.
Oh, stop it, Wes.
I mean,
It's not Norris.
as
It's Lando Norris. Admit it.
I reckon
He's British.
it's tough for that exact reason.
But it's like I love Williams. It's like, who's my favourite driver at
like
Williams?
Russell.
Russell,
Easily
because he's
Russell.
British.
Yeah.
Nicholas Latifi.
No. He's only just above Mazepin. Who's your favourite team, Sam?
Red Bull, probably, isn't it?
What, all time? Or
Yeah, but then I was going to ask
No,
him like,
just
who's
now.
his favourite driver on his team, and it's obviously
Yeah.
going to be Max Verstappen.
No, but that's just this
Do you know
season.
what-
But generally, my
Yeah.
favourite driver is Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, but obviously, I think for most British people,
Of course,
Lewis is their favourite
No,
driver.
but for this season, current
driver.
this season with F1, Max Verstappen has impressed me. Because the guy's just aggressive. He's got that hunger, He's got that drive. Like, he wants it. He's like a lion.
Doesn't any driver in F1 want to win races?
Unless you're Mazepin.
Unless you're
You don't really care.
Unless you're Valtteri Bottas.
Your daddy's getting money. Unless you're Lance Stroll.
Yeah.
I fired shots at Lance Stroll.
No,
last week.
you know what? I don't. Oh my gosh, this thing about getting your daddy to do your work for you and no, excuse me for this, but you shouldn't have your daddy buying a Formula One team and then you just having your way in Formula One.
You don't.
No, it's freaking
right. I'm not defending this in any way, but you have to have some sort of driving experience to get into F1 to start off with.
Yeah.
It's not like your dad could buy a team and you'd get a seat.
Yeah.
You need to build up yourself in karting and things like that. You've done research for your project, you'll know this. But you have to be at some level to get into an F1 car. You have to have licenses. You have to have licenses. You have to have karting experience and things like that.
Yeah.
So I know it is like a dad's team, but they've only bought into it because their son's a good driver and it was like, oh, I want him to get a seat. There's a way to buy him in. Maybe they wouldn't have got in the first place. So, I mean, yeah, it's a way in, but yeah, I think it is a bit of a way in. But then again, I think Latifi buys his seat. Giovinazzi buys his seat. I mean, when Grosjean was driving, he buys his seat. I mean, I know he's testing for Mercedes in the future on the French Grand Prix, but he hasn't really bought that. But I mean, a few drivers do buy their own seat, so it's just a part of the sport. I know there's 20 drivers on the grid. It's so sought after.
Is there anyone, probably apart from Lando Norris in this sense, who's been through the program? Is there anyone who's actually generally, and apart from Hamilton as well, generally been brought up due to their previous experience?
Probably all of them.
Russell,
but all of them,
Sainz,
but maybe a couple.
Leclerc, Bottas, Verstappen, Perez.
But the thing is, a couple of them have had famous or previous drivers. Dads, I mean, Jos Verstappen, Michael Schumacher with Mick Schumacher.
But then we saw in Drive to Survive that the episode surrounding Haas and their sponsorship. Because you would think, well, it'll be all around Mazepin because his dad's behind the team, but it wasn't. It was actually the German IT company who was like, we want a German driver to drive for Haas, which is quite something because you think it would be the other way around, but it's actually not. And that was quite interesting. Schumacher, he won the F2 championship last year, so he's obviously there on merit. But is there a bit of nepotism in there as well? Maybe, but
it's the name in it. Yeah, it's the MSC. It's the what's the number car? What's his number?
47.
47.
Yeah, there is a bit of there is some thing to think about there, but I do think that he is. I mean, obviously he's in the worst car on the grid, but he outqualified Nick Latifi and in a Williams, who's arguably a better car than the Haas. So you can't really.
I wouldn't argue that it is a better. I think it just is better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because look at the result. Russell nearly got into Q3.
Oh, George Russell's another thing. Oh, I've been impressed with George Russell so far this season.
Who hasn't? Besides when he
he's been
punched
good.
Valtteri in the head at Imola. Besides that, Russell is.
But in context, he did crash into him and knock him out of the race. He wasn't having the greatest race anyway, but he still knocked him out of the race.
Yeah.
You don't do that though. Sorry, you don't do that.
I mean, but he is learning, and I mean, we spoke about this on the previous podcast. We did say it was sort of Russell's fault.
Yeah.
It depends who you're a fan of. You'll agree with this, but obviously George Russell will get away with it because he's young. But if somebody like Raikkonen did that, you'd scrutinise him for the rest of his career. So,
yeah. Coming up into the next one. Coming up today, the Monaco E-Prix.
Well, we haven't really got time, but it was a good race.
Yeah.
It was an all right race up until the last lap or two when the cars were running out of energy again.
Do you know what? I watched it. That's the first F1 Formula E race that I actually watched, and the end of it was quite thrilling.
Yeah, it was.
Because one guy ran out of power, and he was literally trundling over the line, and then it ended up.
Robin Frijns in the Envision version race.
Yeah.
I was about to say Eurovision there.
And then was it who won? Santos? Was it?
Antonio Felix
da Costa.
I'm thinking of Santos. That's probably similar.
In the DS, the cheese golden black car.
Yeah, Mitch Evans ran out of battery as well.
Yeah. I mean,
but we had this argument before. Should it be a whole race where they get to use their battery and stuff? And you should be able to get the end on the battery. But then again, we got that thrilling end where he literally on the final turn he completely ran out of power and he was literally trundling over the line and ended up being second or third in the end. That guy he was leading. So it was quite a good race. I quite enjoyed it.
And whilst obviously don't get the battery stuff in Formula One, what you did get in Formula E was actual overtakes around Monaco. There are quite a number of changes for the lead,
and Monaco's not a track for overtakes, especially with the walls.
But I feel like the pack, because it's such a short race and they're quite all similar cars, the pack do stay quite close, so there is a chance for overtakes. Whereas 2-3 laps in F1, everyone's so spread out, and then there's just no, unless it's a blue flag, there's no chance for overtakes. So yeah, I think that with the spec of the cars and the being so close, that I think there is more room for overtakes, even though the cars themselves are quite wide and bulky.
Yeah.
There was a lot of quite good overtakes, really. So yeah, I quite enjoyed it. I mean, it's my first race that I watched, but yeah, it was quite good.
Yeah.
Can I just add something else before we've got like a minute and a half left? But in the news this week, there was Hamilton saying he wants a new contract by the summer break. Do you think that's going to happen?
Yes, he did. Go on, Henry. You go first.
Yeah, he needs it. I think
need it, though?
I think he will. He needs to end on a good note. Would he retire this season?
No, I don't think so.
He said he wants a new contract, so he wants to keep racing.
I think he's still got like 3-4 years in him.
If you think what it doesn't really baffle me that he wants this, but what happens is that before the season he was at contract talks. Remember, he started talking about wanting a year contract because he wanted to pick up diversity and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then I'm just thinking, why would you wait until now, into 4 races in, to then talk about another thing? Because how long was it before?
Maybe this is a matter for the next podcast because we are running out of time.
Yeah.
Right, next podcast we'll talk about Lewis Hamilton contract.
Yeah.
There we go. And Monaco preview.
Monaco
preview, Lewis Hamilton.
Ladies
contract.
and gentlemen, I have been your host, Samuel Oney, with the AfterBurners podcast. The next race is in No, it's not in Monaco. The next race is...
It's in Monaco. It's next week.
Next week.
Yeah.
I've screwed up there. The next race is in Monaco next week.
Cool, we've got to sign off. Yeah. Bye.
And, it's a goodbye from me. It's a goodbye from Wes.
Bye.
And Henry Buxton.
Stay safe. Wait. Social distancing.